A mother posts child abuse live on Instagram, all in efforts to punish her son for being gay. Welcome into another edition, Pride edition of Kings of the Village. I'm Stephion. This is a very disturbing time in American history. This is a very disturbing but not shocking time for any person who has to endure what this kid endured, and all for the world to see. I'll explain. So I want to share some stuff with you that by now most of you have probably already witnessed or already seen, or if you are online. If you are a social media person, you have seen this in your feed. But something has happened that is quite upsetting, and I am glad that it's going viral, because people need to see just how realistic it is and how severe it is to still be a person, a non-straight person, a trans person, a person who identifies in the LGBTQ community. Queer people, gay people, not just black, but all types of people who identify as something other than the hetero norm. Just the other day, a mother and family members, what I deem as disgusting piece of human flesh, these are pieces of trash that are allowed to roam on earth, posted a very disturbing video of her and her family cutting her gay son's hair off and showing off the words gay that they have carved into this young boy's head, while abusing him, this little boy, who I'm guessing at some point, I don't think it was said in that video, that he was gay. I'm going to play this for you in just a moment. I want you, if you have not seen it, I want you to just be advised that this is extremely disturbing and upsetting. But you can see an older family member, while the mom eggs them on to beat his ass, hurt him, abuse him, cut his hair off because he claims that he was gay. Which I guess he was comfortable enough, which takes mountains of courage, which is why I'm deeming this little boy a hero, to come out to his family and say he's gay. So they decided to take to Instagram to show their powers over this little kid who probably weighs 50 pounds, and their disgusting human adult bodies decide to push him around, make fun of him, and tell the world that, yeah, we're going to beat his ass because he's gay and you're doing gay shit. And I guess this is an attempt to turn him from homosexual to heterosexual. Like somehow that's going to work by punishing him, by beating him, by ridiculing him online, and then showing the world how they could be. Well, studies show that this is not that uncommon. But first, I want to play you this. And I want to play this in its entirety as we've seen it live from the family members and the mom who abused this child. This is a crime. This is child abuse. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Ass be they don't help right here.
You said you what? Yeah. Say it again. Say it one more time.
And he like that shit.
You like it. And you doing the most.
You still doing gay shit. You think this on the side of your head for no reason? Is that what you think? Is on the side of your head for no reason? So why you just saying that gay ass shit, bro? Why would you just say that? Why would you just say that? You ain't got shit to say? Hello? You ain't got shit to say?
No.
Hello? Sit your ass down.
Are you?
Keep on doing that shit.
You like this type of stuff?
You thought I wasn't gonna beat your ass from last night too big. Talking all that goddamn shit.
You a gay bitch.
Now we're gonna shut on you getting your ass beat.
So this was the mom, and I'm guessing the brother or father or somebody who wanted to show their powers, that you will be dealt with by being gay, making gay remarks, coming out. But Obviously, by now, most of us know that this is not okay. If you have a child or a sibling that shows signs of being gay at a young age or confesses their sexuality, humiliating them obviously is never the answer. Abusing them is obviously never the answer. I'm trying to figure out what was the goal here. What was the end game of all of this here? To humiliate him to do what? That is not going to change this young boy. What will change is he'll hate you. You probably never see him again, or he'll run away, and he'll become homeless like many other kids in America. But that is obviously not going to change anything. I think what people don't understand, and I don't understand, but I know why people do this to their children. But people do have to understand, as a gay person in America, this is not a choice. And I don't know why the question is always posed to us of the community. When did you become gay? Bitch, I was born gay. I've always been gay. This is not some new concept that we came out with and went to Macy's and bought it off of a rack and said, okay, I'm going to be gay this week. You would have to understand, who would want to endure any of this? And some of the statistics I'm going to share with you are quite startling, which would confirm why nobody would choose to be gay. Because the world doesn't and hasn't taken too kindly to us. And they still don't. Don't be fooled by watching Ellen on TV and think all is right in the world. Don't be fooled because there's a few high-powered commercials that celebrate us. The world has still not been kind and evolved as much as you may think. If you are a person living in this body, you would know that for sure. It is said, according to the Williams Institute at UCLA Law, that 1.6 million young people will experience homelessness in the United States every year. 40% of them identify as LGBTQ from a study every year because of the rejection of family. It is estimated that LBA youth represent about 7% of the population, which puts that 40% figure in a heartbreaking context. Not many parents, as you might suspect, are accepting of their children. Too often kids who come out to their parents are rejected, abused, or thrown out of the home, thrown away, and left to fend for themselves like this young kid. Imagine this little boy. I don't know his age, but he looks about 8 or 9 or maybe even 10. Who at some point said he's gay, or maybe he said he likes boys, or he was attracted to him. And they thought taking to the streets of Instagram for the world to see why they beat his ass, cut his hair off, carved the words gay into his hairline, was supposed to do something. The study also finds that 46% of homeless LGBT youth run away because of family rejection of their sexuality or gender identity. 43% of them were forced out by parents, and 32% face emotional and sexual abuse at home. And that. Do you see how big that number is? That's over half. That's close to almost half. Now listen. I definitely don't understand, but there are several reasons why I believe that parents reject LGBTQ youth. A lot of them in many homes thinks it's because it's a sin. Because they grew up in church and that is what's preached. That's the message over and over and over and over and over again. As long as my child ain't gay, he can do everything else. He can have 5 girlfriends, beat the shit out of his woman, steal, commit adultery, but the sin that is preached the most, at least what I've heard, black and white churches, that you better not be a faggot, boy. You better not be gay, a sissy, a punk. And yet, we still haven't come along as far as you may think. It's the only sin that people really want to talk about in the church. And this is not about an episode about the church and how they treat gay people, but I believe that's where it starts. Somewhere people are taught, in which many families are, if you have upbringing from a church, that being gay is a sin. There are studies that continue to try to prove that, but I haven't seen a real one yet that you can find in the Bible that it is. But I can certainly show you some commandments that preachers and a lot of other people are continuing to do every day that they preach over, that they don't want to talk about every week, Saturday and Sunday at the church. Hell, you could start with gluttony. When these fat-ass preachers get up there and preach every week and ask for more of your money so they can go out and get a steak dinner while you're on the bus going home. But yet, we are preaching about homosexuality while your entire choir behind you just went to the club last night, the gay club, and had all the dicks in their mouth. But you're okay with that because that boasts membership ratings and money. If you are not outraged by what you just heard or the video that you have probably seen by now, something is wrong with you and you too are no longer a part of this human race. There are kids by the millions that this happens to every single day. Every single day. Here's some other startling statistics and facts. According to the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, that's the GLSEN, 90% of gay students will hear anti-gay comments in school. That's 90%. I sure in the hell did. But everybody wasn't big and bold like my black ass. But just think about that. That's almost all students will have to deal with that just while going to school. On average, an LGBTQ student in high school will hear 26 anti-gay slurs per day. 1/3, which will come from a school or staff member. I, in fact, heard it from my staff member who called me gay and thought it was a joke. It happens. 84% of LGBTQ youth report verbal harassment in school because of their gender identity or sexual orientation. 84. So they're reporting it, but you don't hear about it on the news of anybody doing about it. It's like, oh, well, let's talk to him. I guess it would be just like calling a girl a bitch at school because they're also an unprotected class as well. 25% of students have been physically hurt by another student because of their sexual orientation. 25%. You see videos on all the time. Yeah, I'm going to beat that nigga's ass because he's gay. But then what? Only because you can? But then what? He's still going to be gay. And abuse is still against the law. And it is my hope with this video that these parents or family members are jailed. Or at least lose their son. He needs to be in a better environment because here's the problem. The video is one thing, right? That's just what we've seen and heard for just 20 or 30 seconds. But this little boy right now, which is heart-wrenching that he is somewhere in this house, I'm hoping he's not after this video has been released, had to go back in that house and endure all of that. We just seen that little bit of the video, and that's what they did to him online. But think about when he had to go in there. Did they feed him? Did they continue to pounce on him and yell at him and make fun of him and make him feel like trash? Imagine what that feels like. Because he has nowhere to go, right? He's a kid. He has no money. He depends on these people for love and protection, right? But he has to turn around now and walk through the doors because they punched him and said, get your ass in the house. And now this is what he has to live with. These are his living conditions. Think about that piece. Yeah, we outraged by the video we've seen, but think about what will go on behind the closed doors after the videotape is stopped and this little boy has to go in his bedroom with a swollen mouth and possibly broken ribs or chest or abused arms, hair all fucked up, which will grow back. That's not the point, but the humiliation will be forever for the world to see. This little boy, imagine the internal emotional scars that he will now have the rest of his life by the people who are supposed to love him, protect him, take care of him, guide him through life. He will already have other problems as a black male. In addition to being a gay black male, But now, having no support. Now being ridiculed live on Instagram. This is what we deal with. This is the stuff you do not see on television. What you do see are the beautiful $1 million commercials in Ellen and a few gay shows. Or RuPaul's Drag Race, who celebrates us. Those are all great. But the reality behind all of this is that video. This is the common narrative that happens that nobody's telling you about. We know it exists, but we don't deal. We can make everything else a federal crime. Yeah, hate crimes. But what do these people really get? A slap on the wrist, a few days? No. You should be imprisoned for life. Abuse is abuse. The consequences of physical and verbal abuse directed towards LGBTQ youth or students, they include dropping out of school, poor grades, having to repeat a grade. In one study, 28% of LGBTQ youth dropped out of school due to peer harassment. 28% left because they weren't protected. They were seriously harassed, and schools, they can only do so much, right? I've worked in schools. You don't hear everything. You don't hear all the shit that happens in the locker rooms or in the hallways or at the tables. There's only a limited number of teachers and security guards. You can't protect everybody, right? This is how people get raped in schools, killed in schools, beaten in schools. It's a real problem. We can't expect our kids to be protected in schools, but we can't expect our schools to protect every student. You would like to think that is a possible choice or a possibility, but it's not. The school I went to in Indianapolis had almost 3,500 kids and only maybe 200 staff members. You do the math. And I was a gay boy going to school as well. And you hear the comments. You can't fight everybody, or you would attempt to, or you could, but then you'll be kicked out. Or if you hate the environment like these other 28% of the kids I was just talking about, they just dropped out due to being harassed by their peers. LGBTQ individuals account for 30% of all suicides each year. So this mom, right? Because she's going to tell you she loves her son. That's what she's going to tell you. I love my boy. That's why I did it. But when you wake up and he's killed himself because he makes up one of the 30% of all suicide deaths by LGBTQ youth, then what? You'll be running to the graveside saying, "Take me with you"? You black piece of bitch trash you are. You are his mother at the end of the day, and that should be unconditional. He's come out of you, your womb. You are a disgusting piece of flesh on this earth. You raggedy black bitch. You and your family should be tased, beat, sodomized, arrested, choked out, and spit on for what you did to that little boy. And then arrested again. And then dipped in tar. Greater than 50% of transgender youth attempt suicide. That is according to University of New Hampshire. 50%. And you already know how bad they've had it. You've seen the studies. You've heard the reports about how transgender youth are treated. They get killed and thrown to the wayside every day. In some crummy hotel, in some alley. Nobody works the case forever, if at all. 26% of LGBTQ youth are forced to leave home because of conflicts of family member sexual orientation or gender identity as well. Even a greater number I talked about are just forced out. But just the conflict of talking about it, forced to leave because they just can't deal with it. It is amazing that nearly 40+% become homeless. That makes up about 1.6 million youth that I talked about in the GLBTQ community. Youth that are kicked out, have nowhere to go. What's also startlingly is the things you have to do to survive on these streets. Personal people I know especially being a young gay black boy in the early 90s. When we really didn't have anything. Yeah, we know it was bad definitely in the 70s, 80s, but people just didn't talk about it. They just suppressed it and got married and had kids. But when we start coming out and being very vocal and having prides in the 80s and 90s, when I was younger, it definitely there weren't a lot of resources. There are some now, yes. But nobody is still really able to solve this crisis we have to take care of these kids. The kids have to be able to have access to call, to find somewhere to chat somebody, a secret safe place. I'm sure there are schools that have some resources, but unless you really have somebody in the school that is a teacher that is really, connected to the LGBTQ community or a gay social worker, they give you limited resources, even still today. Many of these kids, especially this little boy on this tape, on this Instagram account, I'm sure he doesn't know where an 800 number or some posted sticker somewhere to call somebody for help. He's just learning arithmetic. What does he know about resources? He depends on his family for support. And he felt comfortable enough to come to them to say, this is who I am. And this is what they did. Took him outside on a porch, punched him, beat him, cut his hair, yelled at him, threatened him, humiliated him over and over and over. While everybody larger than him, yelling, screaming at him, treating him like human waste. And that's the reality in the world we live in. Those statistics right there, and there are many more. I won't get into all that, right? But there are many more that will just make you be like, wow, this is what people are really doing. This is what people are dealing with. But nobody tells you about that stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, being gay is hard. But when you put the numbers behind that, it gives you some emphasis on what reality really looks like. And that's just what is reported. I believe the number is beyond. I believe that 1.6 million is far beyond. This is why you see so many kids just runaways, like we don't know what happened to them. And you'll never hear from them again because they turn to prostitution and drugs and anything to survive. They have to live with their friends, and their friends say, oh, well, in order for you to live here, you got to do this. Or they meet some old fucker who turns them out or makes them turn tricks. All because you kicked him out because he was gay. And what does that do for you by beating him up and kicking him out? What does that do for you? Meanwhile, the sister can have 5 kids and we celebrate that. Meanwhile, the older brother can fuck 5 women and have 6 baby mamas and in and out of jail. But when he gets out of jail, we celebrate his black ass or his white ass. But this little boy gay, oh, well, he's got to go. He is the center of a lifetime. That just can't be. I can't raise a faggot son, but I can have a criminal and a whore, or worse, a murderer, or whatever else, but he can't be gay. He can do any fucking thing else, but he can't be gay, right? I don't know. I'm just ranting and raving because I'm outraged that yet again that stuff continues to happen like this. And I know this won't be the last moment because there will always be somebody around you who won't accept you. When you hear, like I just said, 90% of what kids deal with in school today, what I dealt with in school today, what people deal with in the workplace, the jokes that continue to happen. But here's what needs to happen. You can't make it okay. You can't be silent because your silence makes it okay. Your silence says, oh, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. I don't allow it around me. I just don't. You don't get to talk to me like that. You don't get to talk around me like that. You don't get to joke around me like that, especially if you are not of the community. It's just rules like that, right? It's just rules like that. I would never allow my staff to make jokes like that in my office. You would be fired. You won't even be talked to. You don't even get a warning. You're out. Get the fuck out of my space. You can't even take your shit. That's how serious it has to be. And these parents need to be identified and collected and thrown away. That's how it's done. Once you cross the line, now yes, physical abuse, verbal abuse is one thing, but the physical part is an entire different level. That becomes a crime, and that's why they need to be collected. The verbal is enough so they can lose this little boy. Like, a foster care or an agency should be on their way right now. By now, I'm sure somebody has the information or knows this family or where this little boy lives. And I'm telling you, if I were a part of that community, I would send everybody I could to that house. Because that little boy needs to be removed and protected. Because the stuff we seen on the video is not the end. Right? Because they made it clear that they were going to beat his ass. And I'm sure they're going to do it every day. And I'm sure they're going to hurt this little kid every day and talk to him like he's trash every day. And imagine what that does to somebody over a period of time. Or hell, just one time what that would do to somebody. It is just awful. And I'll leave it there. I will say this. If you know somebody who needs help, or if you are that person that needs help, you can call 1-800-799-SAFE. That is 1-800-799-7233. There are many resources online where you can reach out. You can Google it if you have a phone, if you have any type of resources. Hell, if you got to run away and get to a hotel and ask the front desk clerk to use their internet to find some resources, do what you got to do. There are safe place plaques, posters at grocery stores, convenience stores where you can go to and get help and shelter. I don't want anybody of any age to think that abuse is okay just for a place to stay or just for a hot meal. You find a way out. You be encouraged and you be brave and find a way out of that situation. You got to be courageous and work harder to find out how you can protect yourself. Even if that means being out in the heat or the cold. There are safe places that will take you in. Nobody has to deal with abuse and criminal activity because of your gender identity. You should be encouraged that while we have a long way to go, that the world sees you and help is on the way. There are a lot of resources like the hotline.org. You can chat with them. You can text them at 88788. You can call them at 1-800-787-3224. That's 1-800-799-SAFE. There are a lot of options. If you can get by a computer, you can chat live or you can text. You don't even have to make a phone call so nobody hears your voice. Go hide in the closet and chat somebody so they can get you some help that you deserve. That's the hotline.org. They have a chat feature. And don't forget to text START to 88788. That's START to 88788. I'm telling you that you should be encouraged that you can find help immediately. I'm just going to love on that little boy from afar and pray that he gets out of that situation and that the family is dealt with accordingly. I'm Stephion. Join us next time. And listen, no matter where you are in the world, just remember you too can be a king of your village.